Hello, everyone, and welcome to Late Night Book Chat. I'm one of your hosts, Patricia Meredith.
And I'm Andrew Meredith.
And we love books. So we're excited to be here tonight with our very special guest, Mrs. Sarah Stephen. Sarah M. Stephen, right? That's your published name?
Yeah.
Yes. So
thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Yeah, thank you so much. We're so excited to talk with you more about your books.
Yeah.
So
thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. So let's see. Why don't we start with introductions? Like, so who are you? Where are you at? What's your favorite color?
What's your quest?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm Sarah. I live in Vancouver, Canada, which is on the west coast of the country. And I write, and I love mystery. So that's the genre that I write in. And pardon me, I have a podcast where I talk about that as well with another mystery author. And this is so great to be able to speak with you guys tonight.
Yeah, likewise.
So excited. So the name of the podcast is Clued in Mystery, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually how I found you, was through your podcast, listening to you and Brooke, and I'm following you on Instagram, and we started talking on there. And then I read both of your books, and it's been wonderful. So the link is below for Clued in Mystery. I highly recommend listening to them. They cover everything, classics and history, and it's just so much fun listening to you guys talk. So but yeah.
So as a podcaster, I would ask, I assume you're available across all podcast platforms. Is there a platform that best benefits you?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
No. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, I think you can find us.
Listen anywhere, yes, and make sure you leave the stars. Now they have like star reviews on
Spotify.
Yeah. So yeah. So but tonight I mostly want to focus on you and on your book and your series, because I know we tend to get off talking about Clued in Mystery. So so let's see. Let's see. You are an author of mystery, of historical mystery, right?
Yeah.
Is it just the one series, right? The Journal Through Time?
Right now, yeah. I've got, as I'm sure most authors, I've got lots of other ideas. And so there's currently 3 books out in that series. The 4th will come out later this year. And I think I'm going to give it a little bit of a rest while I think about some of those other ideas that I have. But there is at least one more book also rattling around for that series.
Cool. Wonderful. Okay.
And when did book 1 come out?
In 2021, I think, October of 2021.
Okay.
So you've done about a book a year.
About a book a year. I work full time, so that's about as much as I can manage.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you've got a lot of history in there, so it's a lot of research and absolutely all of that. So, all right. And then I almost forgot, before we get too far in, we need to do our random questions to just start. So we like to do random questions just to kind of get things going. And I guess that's about it. You want to ask first? There you go. All right. So question 1. Or would you rather? No. There you go.
Okay. Yeah. If you had the power to read 3 books from your TBR in the space of a second, which 3 books would you choose?
Ooh. I don't know if I'd want to read a book that quickly.
Yeah.
To be honest, because there's so much like pleasure in just uncovering the story. So I don't know.
Maybe something you don't want to read. You just want to get downloaded and get it out of the way.
For the podcast, we do a lot of reading, and some of it I really enjoy. Some of it is a little bit more of a challenge. I don't know. I haven't yet read all of Agatha Christie's books, but I want to take my time reading those. So I don't think I would choose any of those. I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. I like
that was a good answer. Exactly. I agree. I know that I could pick one. Okay, let's see. What's a sequel you're hyped for? Other than yours.
I was looking at books that are coming out this summer earlier today, and so I really like YA mystery, and I don't know if it's a sequel, but it's another book by Karen M. McManus that's coming out this summer, and I can't remember what it's called though. But I was very happy to see that there was another by her coming out.
Awesome.
I think it's in July.
McManus. Okay. Awesome. Cool.
All right. I'm going to read this verbatim, so I didn't add anything to this. If you could go out for coffee, non-romantic, with any fictional character, who would it be? It says non-romantic. It's on the question.
Just going out for coffee.
Yep.
Any
for
fictional character.
There's so many. I might go out with, I wouldn't mind speaking with Miss Marple to just, get a sense of how it is that she manages to sit in the corner. She pays attention to her knitting and whatever else is going on, and very rarely misses a stitch.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And how does she remember all those people from her past?
I don't know. It's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, we all used to memorize phone numbers.
That's true.
I still know my own phone number and my best friend's phone number.
Really?
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't remember any. I hardly remember my old addresses. Yeah. Do you remember people from your past pretty well?
Well, I can remember my old phone number from when I was about 7. I find as I'm getting older, my memory is very fuzzy.
Same here. That's why I keep thinking I'm just going to go back and start rereading books that I know I like, because I don't actually remember all of them.
And this, it's not so bad, because I can do that. I can reread something and know that I've read it, but not really remember exactly what happened. And it happens to me all the time. If I'm watching something, I'll get through 4 episodes and be like, I've seen this.
Yes, right.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, then with the Agatha Christie ones, especially, it's wait a minute. I think I remember who did it, but is that just who thought did it, or is it who actually did it?
Well, and her plots are so complex that it's unless I've had to start taking notes sometimes so that I can then talk about something and not feel like I have no idea what I'm talking about.
Right.
That would be a really good thing to print.
What?
To make a journal for tracking your mysteries you read. And you fill it out as you go to keep track of your case log and you as a detective, and then you're ready. And you're like, got it right here.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I claim that.
Right.
I'll work on that.
Sponsored by Included Mysteries.
That's right. That's right. There you go. All right. So of the Golden Age detectives, who is your favorite?
Well, I really like Niall Marsh's writing, and I really like
I just found her.
Yeah. Roger Allen?
Yeah.
I really like him. And I also like Albert Campion. So that's Marjorie Ellingham's sleuth.
Yeah.
Both of them are.
I haven't read his yet. Yeah.
Yeah, they're great. And Albert Campion, there's a series there's an author who's continued writing Albert Campion stories. Yeah. And those are quite good as well. So he's picked up where Marjorie Ellingham and her husband actually. So when Marjorie Ellingham died, she left a partial manuscript. Her husband finished that and then published 1 or 2 other novels. And when he died, he left an unfinished manuscript. And this author then picked up where he had left off and has written several several more in that same world, and it's great.
Oh wow. Yeah. I'll have to look those up.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like everyone always talks about, Agatha Christie and Dorothy L. Sayers. And so it's like, I need to branch out a little bit more and find more. Like I've never actually read any of, is it Knox, who has the 10 Commandments?
Ronald Knox.
Yeah. I've actually never read any of his. Have you read any of his?
No, I haven't read any of his. In the podcast, we've been kind of working our way through several of the Golden Age authors, and we haven't done him yet. But I'm sure we will.
Yeah.
Well, it was like you were listening to a podcast that was about Golden Age Japanese mystery, which led me to find the Akitada mysteries, which is not Golden Age, it's 80s and 90s, but still really good.
But
as a feudal Japan, Japanese sleuth. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. All right. So last random one. Do you like retellings?
Yeah, I don't mind them. Especially if I've read the original, so you can kind of see what's changed or how it's been altered. I'm looking forward to reading a book that's, I don't know if it's out yet, and I should have all of my notes in front of me, but I don't. So I don't have the name of the book in front of me, but it is a modern day version of Tudor history. So I think it's right after Anne Boleyn has been maybe it's just after Jane Seymour has died. I can't remember. Anyway, one of Henry's wives has died.
Yeah.
And there's I think it's a mystery. So it's a retelling of history.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to reading that.
That sounds really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you always see like fairy tales and classics, Treasure Island and Robin Hood and things like that. But yeah, that's a neat idea.
That is
retelling
a very cool idea.
History. Yeah. Which I guess, we all kind of do that.
Right.
We're all, but yeah. No, that's very cool. All right. So speaking of bringing history to life and being inspired by history. So do you want to read the blurb about, so this is Journal Through Time. The series. So for those of you who haven't heard of it, I just took your blurb off your website. Just the museum archivist. Yeah.
A Journal Through Time series. A museum archivist. A detective living 120 years earlier. Can they solve a crime? Riley Finch, an archivist in present-day Vancouver, finds a journal written in the late 19th century by Detective Jack Winston. When Riley discovers she and Jack can communicate through the journal, they investigate Jack's cases together.
Yeah, I love that premise. Yeah. I love that idea. Because you see dual timelines, right? That's a little bit more common now than it used to be, right? It's in a lot of historical fiction. But I have not come across anybody else doing what you're doing. And so it's just so original. So how did you come up with that?
So I was taking a introductory fiction creative writing course. It was 4 Saturdays in a row. And before I enrolled in that, I had for a long time kind of wanted to do something related to writing. As a child, I wrote lots of stories, and creative writing was one of my favorite classes when I was in high school, but it was always kind of pushed aside. My husband was doing graduate studies, and he was loving what he was doing. He was so passionate about it, and I was saying, well, I want to do something that I'm feeling that would make me feel so passionate. And so he was busy doing his schoolwork, so I thought, okay, well, I'm just going to do this class. It's 4 Saturdays, not much of a commitment. And one of the classes we did, the assignment was to do like a what if exercise, right? And so this idea popped into my head. What if I found a book that someone had written, a journal someone had written some time ago, and we could write to each other? And that was kind of the germ of the series.
Fun.
I love that. Yeah. I was telling him one of the things that I noticed was the archivist. So Riley's an archivist. So first off, do you have experience as an archivist? Is that where that idea came from?
No.
Or just lots of research?
No, but I wanted to give her some way to have access to old police files and
right.
to have some of that information.
Yeah. And she's in modern day, but I think I looked it up and it's actually like 2018.
Yeah, I think so.
Is that when you started writing it? And so that's kind of when it's set?
No, so I started writing that in 2014. That,
Okay.
like the first kind of scene of that I wrote for this course.
Yeah.
I wrote in 2014, and then in 2015, I was in a more formal creative writing program. It was a year-long creative writing program that's offered by one of the universities here. And to get in, I had to submit 20 pages of that story, and that was probably as much as I had written of it, was 20 pages, right? So submitted that, got accepted into the program, and then part of the program was workshopping. So every other, I guess once a month, I had to submit 10 pages of writing, and there were 7 other people in my group, plus a established author who was our facilitator, and I would get feedback from each of those people. And so I was sharing as I was writing this book, sharing it and getting feedback from people. And that was a fantastic experience.
Yeah.
And then I had my son at the end of 2015, and I didn't write for about 3 years. And then kind of, he was a little bit less work, and I said I rearranged my work schedule so that I could have Fridays off, and I write on Fridays. And so that's, so I finished the book and had a very, finished it, I think, in 2019, and then went through the whole editing process in 2020, and came out in 2021.
And you're self-published?
Correct.
Yes. Yeah. Doing it all yourself. So who did your covers? Because we already had somebody commenting on how beautiful your covers are.
So there's a very talented cover artist that I use who is also based in BC. I think he's over on the island though. And he does all of my covers, and great work.
Awesome. Yeah, they look fantastic, and they're all tied together. They all, they all look. Yes, yeah. Here you go. So I read it on ebook. Do you have audiobook?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful.
So beautiful.
Yeah. So, So let's see. So archival work. So what drew you? Yeah. So she needed access to the journal, so that's why she's an archivist.
Yeah.
Did you then do research yourself, going to archives and prepare in preparation for it, or a lot of online work, or what?
So a lot of online work. We have a police museum here in Vancouver. It's a tiny little museum. It's a fantastic, if you're ever in Vancouver, it will take you an hour, maybe 90 minutes to go through it. But I've spent a lot of time there just kind of looking at information about that early police force here. So I think it was established in 1886, and it was literally like 4 guys. You're a policeman now. You're a policeman now. You're a policeman.
Yeah, deputized.
And it took, I think it was in 1902 or maybe 1904 before they had 15 officers. Like but the population was growing quite quickly, so they were, having, they needed more people, and it's a great museum to visit.
Awesome. So then, do you populate your story with real people from history, or
no?
I think that's it up, right? So
so I wanted some creative flexibility and decided that I would create my characters, but some of the facts about the size of the police force at the time, I used what I could find to back that up.
Okay. Yeah.
And are you born, raised in Vancouver?
No, I've lived kind of all over Canada. I've lived abroad a little bit as well, but I've lived here most of my life.
Okay.
Yeah. Wonderful. So where abroad?
I lived for a couple of years in the UK.
Awesome.
in London.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Awesome. Were you studying while you
No,
were there? Yeah.
no. I met my husband there.
Awesome.
I was visiting a friend and met one of his friends. And we hit it off and we kind of did the long distance thing for a bit. And then I said, okay, well, I can get a visa to go and live there, and let's
Yeah.
see what happens. And it all worked out. So
Fun.
Wow, that's awesome.
That's great.
That'd be a great way to meet. That's okay. I'm okay with how I met. That's definitely what I always dreamed of, because I studied abroad in London for like 6 months, and and it was like
6 weeks.
That would have been nice. 6 weeks.
Oh,
6 weeks.
yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. But so okay. So you've gone to other countries. Have you? But you landed on Vancouver. So because it was handy. Were you inspired by local history because you're familiar with it?
Yeah, I think so. I think it was just, I knew it,
Yeah.
and I wanted, so my books all kind of have a actual setting.
Mhm.
So the first book is The Dead of False Creek. False Creek is a little body of water that is quite important to the city now.
Okay.
The next book is The Hanging at the Hollow Tree, which is a landmark in Stanley Park, which is like our equivalent of Central Park.
Okay.
The third book is Murder in Mount Pleasant, which is a neighborhood that was being developed at the turn of the century. But my fourth book, I have done a little bit of a departure. Both characters are out of Vancouver, and I've created a fictional community based on some communities that I've visited, to hold a staged train crash.
Oh.
So in the late 19th century in the US, there were a number of staged locomotive crashes. And so there was one that was in Texas, and a whole community, 40,000 people, descended on this location, and like a whole town was created to serve as the home base for these people in anticipation of this crash. And so I thought, what an amazing thing to write a story about. So I don't think there ever was such an event in Canada, but
But there is now.
Why not?
Yeah. There is now. Yeah. So I've created a community around that, imagining that,
so like a demolition derby, basically.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, it was
Fun.
two trains running at each other.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Well,
that's crazy.
That's a lot to play with too.
That's
yeah. So there's
I can already think.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Oh, yeah.
That's
I definitely need to finish reading your series. I need to keep reading. Those sound amazing. I love that they're each tied to a local place. That's so cool. That's so neat.
Well, like I enjoy reading stories that are set in places where I've been.
Yeah.
Vancouver serves as the backdrop for a lot of film and television shows, and I, even if it's not something that I would typically watch, I will probably watch it if it's been filmed in Vancouver. And so, I just felt like, okay, I want to highlight some of these places and actually have Vancouver be Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah,
because then you get those chill bumps when you're like,
I know that place.
I could go there. Yes. Yeah. I could walk the crime scene.
That's not Boston.
That's
What's a rainforest doing in Boston?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So for those of us who don't know, where is Vancouver? Right. It's above Washington, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's on the west coast of Canada. Typically, we refer to it as the Pacific Northwest, although technically, I think it would be the Pacific Southwest of Canada. But the U.S. If you think of Seattle, we're a couple of hours north of Seattle.
That's what I thought. Okay. All right. Yeah. So yeah, they do a lot. They do a lot of filming around there.
Like Smallville was filmed there.
Oh,
I think
okay.
a lot of Leverage was filmed there
Yeah.
too.
But Murdoch Mysteries is somewhere else. It's on the opposite side.
I think, yeah, that's filmed in Ontario, but
Ontario.
yeah, the X-Files were filmed here.
Yeah.
What are the Ryan Reynolds movies? Deadpool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's from here as well. So I think that's partly why.
Yeah.
But a lot of Hallmark mysteries are filmed here. A lot of Hallmark movies are filmed here.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's great architecture.
We don't watch a lot of those.
Sure.
But yeah, they're all filmed here. MacGyver was filmed here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there
and
any
21 Jump Street, the original, like with Johnny Depp?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Are there any like historical festivals or anything for like, especially your time period?
Not here. Not that I can think of. Vancouver hasn't done a great job of holding on to its history.
Oh, yeah.
So we are very much a city of tall towers and glass. Yeah, it's when I look at pictures of what Vancouver used to look like, it does make me a little bit sad that there wasn't any kind of real commitment to keeping some of that history. We do have one neighborhood that has retained that that history, so all the buildings are still 2 or 3 stories. But yeah, it's much more of a like looking forward. Kind of
yeah. Okay. Well, then I'm glad you're looking back and saving some of that history and drawing it forward again. So yeah. So looking back, so Jack, can you tell us a little bit more about like where did he come from and why is he your detective and all of that?
Yeah. So he originally is from Ontario, and he's migrated to Vancouver to become a police officer. His uncle is the chief of police, and he's really tried to get away from his family. So his father's quite a prominent businessman, and he didn't want to pursue that, and so he's left to make it out on his own, which I think is true of a lot of people who came to Vancouver. It was I'm going to start something new.
Yeah,
it's a very what's the word I'm looking for? Frontier, right? Like it was kind of the last frontier, I guess, in Canada, and very much shaped by the railroad. And once that connection across the country was built, it allowed the city to really grow.
Right.
So Jack is pretty new to Vancouver in the first book. He's still trying to figure the town out, but does come to quite like his new home. And he's I don't know how. I needed a detective, so
Well, it sounds like a good fish out of water, so you could really introduce the city in your way as well.
And I forget, is Riley born and raised though?
She's from the city for sure.
From the city, yeah. So she's a little bit more of a connection, and then
So a question I have is when you're writing or creating characters, do you like to take ideas you see and run with them from what you've read or watched, or are you like a lot of other authors, you're like, oh, I could do better than that, was a problem because some ball was dropped in a story that you read and you thought I could do better? Where do you like to draw, or TV show, where do you like to draw your ideas from?
This is a good question. I feel like it's been a while since I've created a new character, and
or even like a mystery seed.
I don't think I put in as much thought as I probably should, and I'm very much a discovery writer. Like I don't, I don't plan very much. And I like to have an idea of where the mystery is happening. Certainly that's how I've approached the books in this series.
Right.
Where is it happening? What is the crime that has occurred? I might not know who did it when I start. And I definitely don't know kind of what things are going to get thrown at the characters. So yeah, I don't know what it would be like if I did more planning.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, then how many do you go back through? Do you have several drafts before it goes to print? Yeah. So there's a lot of chances for you to iron things out and
Yeah. So I guess as a discovery writer, that's how you're able to share your story as you're writing it. Like you were saying with a critique group. Like I could never do that because I write backwards. So because I'm a planner, and I wouldn't want people to look at it and find all the problems
questions that you don't have answers to.
Yeah, exactly. Then I'm like, I don't know. Why did you ask that? So that's very brave of you to like share it as you're going. Do you still do that? Do you have a critique, like does Brooke, or do you have a critique partner who reads as you go?
not as formally, but Brooke and I are just about to start a project where we are going to be sharing what we write as we write it with listeners of the podcast.
Yes.
I think we're both a little bit unsure because as you pointed out, Andrew, like before anybody else sees what you see in the book, like that's gone through a lot of drafts and several sets of eyes before before anyone sees that. So yeah, it'll be a little bit interesting to see what happens.
Yeah. So you're co-writing it, like
Yeah.
So, do you guys have a basic idea going forward, or are you just going to kind of jump in?
Well, we asked listeners what. We gave them two options for the setting and two options or maybe three options for the like sleuth. And so we're using that input to create the story, and we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
And where are you publishing that? Are you just going to post it, or?
Yeah, so we'll make it available. We have a paid subscription through the podcast, and so we'll make it available to people who are part of that. And we made it really accessible. I think the lowest tier is $12 a year, US dollars.
I think it's like like $1 a month.
So then will you do like a chapter an episode? And then release it over the course of 30 episodes, or?
I don't know. We haven't. This is all, we're just figuring it out as we go. I think what we're going to do is we will be probably releasing new writing every other, I don't want to commit us to. I think it'll be every other week that we release new writing.
Yeah.
And we'll see how long it takes us to do that.
Awesome. Cool. So people go subscribe so that way you can read this.
Yeah. So you got one subscriber already.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. What?
New subscriber right there.
Yes. Excellent. To the podcast. Yeah. Yes. But if you subscribe to the Patreon. Then you get access.
Exclusive content.
Yes, right. Exactly. So, very, very awesome. Which, speaking of comments in the live chat, just a reminder to everybody, if you have any questions, please definitely put those in there. Put an asterisk before them, a little star shape. So that way we can pull them out at the end. And that'll be the last 10 minutes of the show will be any questions that you guys have in our live audience for Sarah. So as we're chatting through things. So let's see. So you covered how do you write and your inspiration. I had something with that. What was the
really?
Was really no, yeah. Sorry, lost my place in my notes. We went off on discovery. So I guess 1897 Vancouver. So why did you choose specifically that time period and not later when there was more policemen?
Or before when there was nobody there?
Or before when there, yes.
So not before, because the population was pretty small.
So was it a logging town mostly?
Yeah, and I mean a port town.
Okay.
The whole province is very resource rich, but it's all shipped out through Vancouver. So the city was only incorporated in 1886. And yeah, it was pretty rustic. And I think it was still rustic when Jack was knocking around. But
Right.
I don't know. I just like that time. I mean, I know, Patricia, that's kind of a little bit earlier than when your stories are set. But I wanted there to be enough time between Jack and Riley that their worlds were, she could picture his world, but it was still pretty different.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Okay, so that just made me wonder, would you ever do other series with journals, but maybe have a different, like maybe she discovers one and it links to a different time period?
Well, that's a good question. I started writing something, it's in a drawer somewhere, that involved a series of letters that were written by, I can't remember if it was the grandmother of the main character, that kind of recounted some mystery in their family. That, and she had to kind of figure out what was going on. But there was a period of time where kind of everything that I started to write had this very backward looking angle to it. So I think if I'm going to write something new, or like the ideas that I have right now are more set in a single time, present day, more forward looking.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So what is your current project?
Well, this one with Brooke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how. It feels like it's been a while since I've done any like new writing. I've gotten out of the habit, and maybe this will help me get back into it, of writing new words every day. And I think that's partly why I want to do this project with Brooke, so that I am kind of back into that habit. I've got several ideas for kids' stories that I wouldn't mind exploring, but what I need is some more time. I need to work less and write more.
Right. But you're also a mom, right? So trying to balance all of that is, yeah. And I think you said you actually started writing about the same time I did. Like once your kids are like old enough, they can kind of independent play, right? Is that
you can get more than 2 minutes at a time?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
More like 5.
More like 5 minutes. Yay. So yeah. So did you do you write in like small intervals in those moments in the day, or do you have like a set, like I wake up and write before work or after work? Or
yeah. So when I was drafting my first book, I was commuting for work, and I had a 15-minute C-bus ride, so public transit over a body of water, and that I would write out on my phone scenes, either direction. So I would get half an hour of uninterrupted writing time a day, and that was fantastic. I'm not commuting anymore. And so I don't have that pocket of time that I can count on. So I'm more trying to write. I'm better in the morning, just in terms of like mental space. But often will try and squeeze, if I am going to be writing, kind of after I put my son to bed and before everything shuts down at about 8:00. So before then, but I do have, every now and again, I will have like a spurt where I get up quite early in the morning and I write, because I know, nobody else is up yet, but inevitably he gets up and wants an early breakfast or something. So yeah, it has to be kind of when I can.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So children's books, you said, is that something that have you kind of dabbled in children's books before?
I mean, I've drafted some really rough ideas, some really, need a lot of work, I think. And they came about really from a period of time when my son just wanted me to tell him stories all the time.
Yeah.
And so I had to develop this cast of characters, and so it's kind of drawing on them.
That's wonderful.
But I think maybe what I need to do is kind of give myself, okay, these 2 months, this is the project I'm going to work on.
Sure.
These 2 months, I'm going to work on this project, and really try and stick to that and see what happens.
Yeah. Would they be picture books or middle grade or YA or?
Middle grade, I think.
Middle grade. Yeah. So which your son could be a beta reader then?
That's right.
He could, absolutely. Yeah.
Perfect.
It's so nice when they get to that age where you can start reading them your work, depending on what work you're writing.
Yes.
Too.
Yes.
Yeah. He hasn't read that book yet.
Yeah. Though I would say, like, your books are very clean. They're very, like, really. I mean, I wouldn't read it to my kids because it's murder and stuff.
Right.
But other than that, there's nothing.
Nothing spicy.
Yeah, there's nothing spicy in them. Yes, at least not in the first one.
No, they're all kind of very tame.
Very very focused on the history and the story and just great character development and I need
So having not read it, is it a pretty large cast of characters, or is it pretty focused on the two of them in effectively a epistolary story?
Yeah, it's pretty focused on the two of them. They each have a few other people in their lives, but it's not. I had to make sure it wasn't overwhelming,
right?
For me to keep track of all of these people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Does it grow with the series, or is it still mostly them?
It's still mostly them. Yeah. It hasn't. We'll see what the 5th book. We'll see what happens there.
You're saying it's easy to option for TV.
Yes.
Anybody's watching,
By the way,
to buy an option. Now's your chance.
And everybody gets filmed in Vancouver anyway, so there you go. It's meant to be. So, So then, as a kid, like, what inspired you to become a writer?
I don't know. I mean, I think it was just loving reading growing up. Like I read from a pretty early age. I was reading books off of my parents' bookshelves. I'm pretty sure I read And Then There Were None. 10 or 12, and I was reading some Stephen King. I was reading some Stephen King books that I'm not sure my mom knew I was reading. well before I probably should have been reading them.
Yeah.
But it was, I just loved the creating worlds and creating characters and like I wrote a lot when I was little, and it was I will say it's probably becoming a mother that really persuaded me to actually do something with my writing.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't want him to say, well, is there anything you regret you didn't do?
Yeah.
And for me to say, well, I've got all of these things that I wrote and they've just sat here.
Yeah.
Right? I wanted him to see me doing something that I was really, really proud of.
Great.
That is awesome. It is so important for us as parents to make sure that we're pursuing our passions and so that they can see you doing that.
Right. So they know it's okay for them to do it too.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Because we all have the workaday job, and then but doing something outside of that brings you joy. So do you? So no, you said that you kind of you don't write consistently every day, right? It's just kind of
Do you read consistently every day?
Yeah. Do you read?
Oh yeah.
Every day? Yeah.
What are you reading right now?
So I just finished it was a prequel to A Good Girl's Guide to Murder called Killjoy by everything's escaped me. It's too late, you guys. And I just finished reading a book called Knife Skills for Beginners by Orlando Murren. And so he was formerly a chef, and this was his first mystery novel. I really enjoyed that, set in that kind of world.
Yeah.
And because we're going to be talking about him on the podcast, I'm reading the Chocolate Poison Chocolate Case by Anthony Berkeley.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So through the podcast, who's your favorite thing, your favorite author that you've discovered through doing that? Either historical or new, because you guys have interviewed some great living authors as well. So.
Yeah. I definitely have expanded what I've read for the podcast. So I hadn't read very much apart from Agatha Christie, kind of the golden age authors, and I've really been enjoying reading them and learning about them and learning about their lives. So I would say I really liked Niall Marsh, like the stuff that I read of hers.
Yeah.
I don't know. We almost have 100 episodes.
Wow.
Yeah. That's right.
Wow.
4 seasons. So that's awesome. Are you going to do anything special for the 100th episode?
I don't know. I think we want to do something. We haven't kind of decided what that's going to be. So I'm open to ideas.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah. How did that get started? You guys just...
I reached out to Brooke. I said, hey, so I knew her through Instagram. And I said, hey, I want to do a podcast. Do you want to do it with me? And she said, yeah, sure.
Nice.
So we met and, kind of had a couple of conversations online and kind of decided, all right, this is roughly what we want to do. And we've been very broad in what we've spoken about, right? So we always try and do a deep dive into Golden Age author. We've started doing deep dives into what we've termed as modern greats. So we just did P.D. James, and we did Sue Grafton, and even I hadn't read any Sue Grafton.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. So there are just so many books.
Yes, I know.
All time.
And so it's been great to have an excuse to read all of these books that I probably wouldn't be picking up. So it's been lots of fun.
It's so funny that you guys just randomly, because the way it sounds on the podcast is like you guys have been friends for years, which at this point I guess it has been years. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anita found the author name.
Did she?
Holly
Jackson.
Girl's Guide to Murder.
Yeah, Holly Jackson. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Anita.
Yeah. And then we did have one question. Let's go ahead and do that one.
Okay.
Yeah. So came in late and missed Sarah's intro. Do you have children and do you live in Vancouver? Yes, she does.
Yes, I live in Vancouver and I have one child. He's in grade 3, I think. Third grade.
Nice.
Yeah. So same age as our kids.
Yep.
Yep.
So does he write at all? He
does. So we co-wrote a story.
Yeah.
We he because he knows I write and really wanted to write a story with me, and so it's a story that involves fairies in the forest, and we haven't done much with it because he's like, well, who's going to publish this? I said, well, we could do it ourselves. He said, okay, well, we need to find an editor. So, okay, well, we can.
He's been listening.
It needs a little bit of work before it goes anywhere. But because he's really into graphic novels, and there's a series by Dav Pilkey who wrote, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Dogman.
Yes, Dogman.
But he's got the comic book. No, Cat Kid Comic
Yes.
Club
Mhm.
series, and in those, the characters are writing comic books and sending them off to publishers, and waiting for publishers. And
Mhm.
so, well, why don't we do that? And
Right.
so, yeah. So I don't know if anything will ever come of it, but for a period of time, he was telling people that we had written this book and he was going to sell it, but our friends and family all got discounts. So.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Excellent.
So then he
Sounds like
draws
my
too.
childhood.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't. It's not illustrated yet, so I
Yeah.
don't know if it will be. We just wrote it. There was no illustration at this
That's
point.
great.
Awesome. Awesome. How about your husband? Does he read?
He does, but a lot more nonfiction.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Awesome. So do you discuss your books with him? Like when you're writing him?
No, not very. No,
Yeah.
I'm very. I have been very, very private about my writing.
Mm-hmm.
And most of my friends don't know that I've written books or that I have a podcast. Like I have a very hard time talking about that with people who know me.
Yeah.
So like I don't think any of my colleagues have any idea.
Oh my goodness. Tell them. It's
Sir,
okay.
I know I should. I know I
Yeah.
should. And my husband keeps telling me, he's like, you need to tell everybody about this. But
keep a
I've
stack
just
of books
kept
of 5 each, and when you're at a party, you're like, "Hey, you want one?
Yeah.
You want to buy a book?"
Yeah, I've just kept my personal and my professional lives very very separate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which is definitely, that's necessary too. So yeah.
So do you have any other Canadian authors that you recommend that you feel are underseen because their colleagues don't know that they write?
Yeah, I mean there's some fantastic Canadian authors. I would highly recommend Sam Wee, who writes PI kind of noir fiction set here in Vancouver. His Vancouver is a much darker Vancouver than mine is.
Okay.
But his books are great.
Sam Wee, you said?
Weeb, Weibe, I think is how you spell his surname.
Okay.
Yeah. And highly recommend him. Just trying to think of all my author friends in Vancouver. Who can I call out? Another kind of darker version of Vancouver is he writes as J.T. Siemens. A more humorous version of Vancouver, a lighter version is A.J. Devlin. And so he writes, his PI is a former wrestler, former pro wrestler.
Okay.
So it's a much lighter, a much lighter version of Vancouver.
Yeah.
Boy, there have been several shows that I'm sure have been really good for comps for him, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There have been pro wrestling.
Yeah,
I've never heard of a pro wrestler turned detective.
Not detective, but I just mean pro wrestling has been a huge. They've been making a lot of TV shows about them too.
Oh, really?
He played Stephen Amell, who played played Green Arrow.
Oh,
just acted in one where he and his brother are both pro wrestlers in like a small town somewhere.
Yeah,
he's a Canadian actor.
Oh, yeah.
But so there's been several movies and TV shows that would be good comps for him. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Probably my favorite Canadian mystery author would be Louise Penny.
Yes.
So, but she's very well known, and I would count her kind of among the modern greats.
There you go.
Yeah. She's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I can think of anybody else off the top of my head.
Okay.
So the only Canadian TV show that I'm familiar with is Murdoch Mysteries. Are there any others that are awesome Canadian?
So there's Da Vinci's Inquest, which is
Okay.
set here in Vancouver.
Okay.
And it is based on, so the premise is it's a coroner who's working with the police and kind of investigating all, various deaths in the city. And so it was based on a real coroner
Oh.
who then ran for mayor, and he became the mayor of Vancouver in real life. And so the show then had this character run for mayor, and they had a spin-off series called Da Vinci's City Hall, which I thought was was great. So I really, really liked the Da Vinci's Inquest. I don't actually think I saw any of the Da Vinci's City Hall episodes. It didn't run as long, but it was on CBC, and it's probably streaming on Netflix or something. Yeah, because it was in the early 2000s, I think.
Okay.
Late 1990s, so 2000s. So it's been around for a while.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Any others?
Things actually set in Canada. Well, it's not a mystery, but Schitt's Creek.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah.
Highly recommend that.
Yeah.
Aren't most of them?
I can think of anything.
Oh yeah.
All the mockumentary people are.
Yeah, because they all started in Second City. And
Yeah.
And some of the clips of them have started showing up online too, and it's like, oh man, I want to watch this show.
Yeah.
Because it's all late 80s and back when
like
SNL was
City,
strong too.
yes,
With Eugene
the
Levy.
original,
And,
yes.
John Candy goes back that far, and
Yes.
Rick Moranis.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's true. They're all Canadian, aren't
Yep.
they?
Yep.
I
Canadians are funny.
Yeah. We have a good Mike Myers. Canadian.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
Well, I think that's all
we
I
got all the
had.
questions,
Yeah.
yeah.
Did I go through everything I had? Yeah. So, tell us where we can find you and how we can support you and your books.
Okay. So my website is sarahandsteven.ca.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I have down below.
And the podcast is Clued in Mystery. And my books are available online retailers, either in print or ebook. And I'm hoping to do audiobook this year, but I don't have a timeline on that.
Sure.
And I'm more than happy to talk to people. Send me an email, reach out on Instagram. More than happy to talk to people.
Oh yeah, what's your handle on Instagram?
Sarah and Steven Author.
Yeah.
Great.
So so follow her on Instagram. And how do you get signed copies? Is it possible to get signed copies?
Oh yeah. You can just request them, and I can. If you already have a copy of the book, I can send you a bookplate.
Okay.
Otherwise, we can figure out how to get you a copy. It's probably easiest if you buy a copy and I send you a bookplate.
Sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Sarah.
Really
this was wonderful. Yes.
Thank you very much for inviting me. This was lots of fun.
Absolutely. So let's see. Next week we have Anitha.
Anitha Gade, who's actually in the chat.
Oh yes.
She was earlier.
Anitha, hello.
So we're gonna have her in on next week.
Yes.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Yep. So I guess that's it. Yeah. You can set your notification bell for that already. It's already down there. So.
Perfect.
So thank you again, Sarah. And thank you everybody who joined us in the live chat and those of you who are watching
on the replay.
Yeah. And I guess we'll see you guys next week. Thanks.
Bye.